Attention. The narcissist is losing their mind and afraid of your power. What if the very things a narcissist is doing right now, their frantic texts, their wild mood swings, their desperate attempts to get your attention, aren't signs of their power, but proof of yours? It's a bold thought, isn't it? We've been conditioned to see their rage and their manipulation as a source of our own fear. We've been trained to believe that their erratic behavior is something we need to manage or placate. But what if the script has been flipped entirely? What if their current state of panic, their escalating desperation, and the chaos erupting in their world is not because of something they are doing, but because of something you have stopped doing? What if their fear isn't from some worldly threat, but from a spiritual truth they can't comprehend? Something is happening beneath the surface, a shift you might not even feel yet. You are stepping into a spiritual power that is causing them to lose their minds, and it's a force they are completely and utterly terrified of. This is a story of power, not of manipulation. It's about a spiritual law you didn't even know you were activating. Think of a narcissist's world. It's a house built on sand, a reality constructed from flimsy lies and constant performance. The Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 7 verses 26 to 27, "And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house. And it fell, and great was the fall of it." The narcissist's entire life is this house. It's built on a false narrative, a fragile image they project to the world. When you were involved with them, you were, in a way, holding up one of the walls of that house. Your attention, your emotional energy, your love, it was all a form of spiritual currency they used to keep their false reality from crumbling. When you began to pull away, to detach, you weren't just leaving a person. You were removing a pillar from their unstable structure, and the narcissist feels it. They feel the ground shifting beneath them. They are losing their mind because their entire reality, the one they work so hard to invent, is starting to buckle. The narcissist is not just afraid of you. They are afraid of the spiritual law of consequences, a force they are powerless to stop. As Scripture reveals in Psalm chapter 7 verse 15, "He makes a pit, digging it out, and falls into the hole that he has made." The panic they are feeling isn't some random bad luck. It is the direct result of their own actions. Every lie they told, every deception they wove, every act of cruelty they inflicted, it wasn't just a physical or emotional act. It was a spiritual one. The Bible tells us that when we act with malice and deception, we are not just harming others. We are digging a pit for ourselves. This is what's happening to the narcissist. They are not tormented by your actions, but by their own. Their mind is unraveling because the universe itself is holding up a mirror to their soul, reflecting every vile deed back at them. The truth they have so desperately run from is now catching up, and it is a terrifying thing for a soul built on lies to face. This is the hidden power you possess, not because you are cursing them or wishing them ill, but because you are living in truth. The light you now carry, the light you have reclaimed by stepping away, is unbearable for them. The Bible tells us in John chapter 1 verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." When you were enmeshed with the narcissist, they used your light to power their darkness. They fed off your hope and your kindness. But the moment you reclaimed that light, the moment you chose to shine it on your own path, and not on theirs, you created a spiritual force of separation. This is why they are so afraid. They see your growing freedom and your newfound peace, and it terrifies them. It is proof that their manipulative tricks didn't work. It's a sign that the very source of life they tried to extinguish in you is now burning brighter than ever before, and it is casting a stark, revealing light on their own dark reality. Their frantic calls, their desperate hoovering, their insane attempts at character assassination, it's all the sound of a person who is spiritually drowning, grasping for a power they can no longer steal. And what's next is far more terrifying for them. The prison they've been building for others is about to become their own. The narcissist's frantic panic is just a symptom. The true problem is much deeper, and it's a spiritual one. It's the spiritual cage they've been building for themselves with every lie, with every manipulation, and with every act of cruelty. We often think of punishment as something that comes from the outside, something inflicted on a person. But the Bible reveals a far more terrifying truth. A person can become a prisoner of their own sin. This is the spiritual state of the narcissist. They are not tormented by you, but by the walls of a prison they have meticulously constructed around their own soul. The lies they tell to others, the false narratives they weave, the fake identities they create, all of it serves a purpose. It's meant to trap you, to keep you from seeing the real person. But God says that this very same deception is what truly holds them captive. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 22, "The iniquities of a wicked man ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin." This isn't a metaphor. It is a spiritual law in motion. Think of the narcissist's life as being held together by strings of lies. They pull one string to get attention, another to avoid responsibility, and a third to create a false reputation. Over time, those strings don't just control others. They become a net that ensnares the narcissist themselves. They become so tangled in their own deceptions that they can't see the world clearly anymore. Their self-obsession becomes a kind of spiritual blindness, a thick fog that prevents them from seeing any truth outside of their own distorted reality. The more they try to control others, the tighter the ropes of their own sin become, and the more they are held fast. This is why they can't take responsibility. They are literally spiritually bound by the need to blame everyone else. This spiritual bondage is also a result of a conscious choice. The narcissist chooses to love darkness rather than light. They don't just stumble into this state. They actively walk toward it. The Bible is very clear about this. John chapter 3, verses 19 to 20 reveals, "And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and people loved the darkness rather than the light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed." The narcissist's greatest fear is exposure. They hate the light because it reveals their true, empty self. They would rather live in a dark, twisted fantasy than face the truth of who they are. Their constant performance, their need for external validation, it's all a way of running from the light. But the light is persistent. It shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. When you choose to walk in truth and separate yourself from their lies, you become a beacon of that light. And for a soul that has chosen to love darkness, that light is not comforting. It is torment. The very delusions they use to control others are now being used to torment them. They are trapped in a feedback loop of their own creation. Every lie they told you, every promise they broke, every gaslighting comment they made. It's all now a memory replaying in their mind, not as a victory, but as a ghost haunting them. They are alone with their sins, and it is a spiritual hell of their own making. This is the ultimate spiritual karma. It is not an external force of revenge. It is the simple law of spiritual gravity. What you put out comes back to you, not as a punishment, but as a consequence. They are their own judge, jury, and jailer. Their own mind, corrupted by their choices, has become their prison, a cage built of self-condemnation and deceit. But this prison is not just a place of torment. It's a battlefield. They may be trapped, but they are still fighting. And the spiritual war they've started is one they have absolutely no hope of winning. The prison of their own making is where the narcissist has found themselves, but they are not sitting still in that cage. They are thrashing against the bars, lashing out at anything they can still touch. This isn't a moment of reflection for them. It's the start of a desperate spiritual war. And you need to understand something critical about this war. It's not a fight between you and them. You are not wrestling against a person. The Bible reveals a deeper truth in Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. The narcissist is not the enemy. They are a vessel, a tool being used by a much darker force. This is why their actions feel so inhuman, so illogical, so purely malicious. It's not just a personality disorder. It is a manifestation of something spiritual. They've given themselves over to the spiritual forces of evil, and those forces are now using them to try and keep you from your peace. But here is the most powerful part of this revelation. You don't need to fight them. You are not called to get into a mudslinging match, or to seek revenge, or to try and outsmart their lies. Your victory isn't found in your own cleverness or strength. The spiritual war they've started is already over. The victory was claimed a long time ago. All you have to do is stand firm. The Bible tells us in Ephesians chapter 6 verse 13, Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Think of the narcissist as a foot soldier for a losing army. They are running on an old playbook, using the same tired tactics of deception and control. But you are not standing on the same field of battle as they are. You have a divine shield and a heavenly buckler. As Scripture reveals in Psalm chapter 91 verse 4, He will cover you with His pinions, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. They are trying to hit you with spiritual weapons, but they are simply bouncing off your armor, and they can't even see it. Their rage, their smears, their attempts to turn others against you, it's all a show of desperation. They are fighting for their life because they can sense that the source of the battle is no longer within their grasp. They are fighting against a force that is infinitely more powerful than they are, and they are losing. Every lie they tell and every act of manipulation they perform is like a small stone they throw against a mountain. It is a futile effort, a complete waste of their energy, and a sure sign of their spiritual ignorance. They do not understand the spiritual world they are operating in, and because of this ignorance, they are completely outmatched. This is why your detachment terrifies them. Your silence is a sign that you have stepped off their battlefield and onto your own. When you refuse to engage, when you don't respond to their drama, you are not just ignoring them. You are making a powerful spiritual statement. You are declaring that their weapons have no power over you and that their spiritual warfare is a futile effort. They are losing their mind because they cannot comprehend why their attacks are not working. They can't understand the invisible shield that surrounds you. They are seeing a supernatural resistance to their evil, and it drives them to greater and greater acts of desperation. But those frantic, escalating acts are not a show of strength. They are the flailing of a defeated spirit. But where does this spiritual power come from? What is the source of this unseen strength that is terrifying them even as you stand in the calm of a new dawn? The answer is not in what you do, but in what has been done for you. The question that echoes from the spiritual battlefield is this: where does this unseen strength come from? The answer is not in what you do, but in what has been done for you. This power is not a result of your own grit or a clever strategy. It is a spiritual wellspring that has been made available to you, and it is what's terrifying the narcissist more than anything else. You are not fighting with your own limited strength. You are fighting with a power that has already defeated all spiritual darkness. The Bible tells us something incredible, a promise that reveals the truth about this force. In John chapter 14 verse 12, Jesus says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I do. And greater works than these will he do, because I am going to the Father." This is not just a promise about grand miracles. It is a promise of a profound spiritual power, a power to overcome the very darkness that operates through a narcissist. It is a power to heal, to find peace, to live in truth, and to walk away from spiritual bondage. This is a force the narcissist cannot understand, because it is not of this world. Think about the narcissist's power. It is a false power, a counterfeit. It is built on lies, on controlling others, on stealing emotional energy and validation. It is a power that is always running on empty, always needing to be refilled by the attention of its victims. It is a power that is, in the end, completely hollow and weak. But the power available to you is the complete opposite. It is an internal, unshakable, and limitless wellspring. As Scripture reveals in Acts chapter 1 verse 8, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses." The moment you began to detach from the narcissist, the moment you chose your peace over their chaos, you began to tap into a spiritual power that has nothing to do with them. You are no longer in a competition for attention or control. You are in a spiritual reality where your power comes not from the external, but from the internal. It is a silent, gentle, yet utterly terrifying force to a narcissist. They are losing their minds because they cannot manipulate this power. They can't gaslight it, they can't lie to it, and they can't steal it from you. They are sensing a divine presence surrounding you, and it is a presence they have no authority over. It's like a thief trying to steal a star from the night sky. It's a futile, desperate, and ultimately foolish attempt. Every lie they tell and every smear they launch is a signal of their spiritual impotence. They are watching you walk in a light that is a total mystery to them, and it drives them insane because it invalidates their entire existence. Their world is built on being the most powerful person in the room. But when you are in the room, they are faced with a power that they cannot comprehend, a power that is not of this world. This is why their health is failing, their sleep is gone, and their relationships are collapsing. They are being consumed by a spiritual torment that comes from fighting a battle that was never theirs to win. The narcissist is terrified because your spiritual freedom is a constant living testament to the fact that their darkness is not all-powerful. They are seeing your joy, your peace, and your resilience, and it is a direct blow to their fragile ego. They are witnessing the power of light over darkness, of truth over lies, and it is breaking them. This spiritual wellspring isn't about vengeance. It's about a divine law of cause and effect that they are now being forced to face. Because what they call karma is simply a spiritual principle in motion, and it is here to bring about their judgment. They may call it karma. They may think you're sending them bad energy or actively working against them. But what they don't understand is that this isn't an act of human vengeance. It is a spiritual law of cause and effect in motion. This isn't about you getting revenge. It's about a divine principle that cannot be stopped. The Bible is very clear about this. It tells us in Galatians chapter 6 verse 7, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap." This is the spiritual law they are now facing. Every seed of a lie they sowed, every seed of cruelty, every seed of manipulation is now coming back to them not just as a small plant, but as a full harvest. They are reaping the bitter fruit of their own actions, and it is a judgment they cannot escape. The narcissist cannot comprehend this. They operate from a place of spiritual deception, believing they can outsmart these laws. They think they can manipulate a situation to get a different outcome. But this is where their spiritual ignorance becomes their greatest downfall. What is happening to them is not a random occurrence. It is the natural consequence of their own deeds. Their entire life, their relationships, their health, their reputation, it's all built on a foundation of lies. And what happens when you build on a foundation of lies? The structure starts to crumble. The narcissist is not being punished by an external force. They are being consumed by their own creation. The pit they dug for you, the trap they set for you is now holding them. The Bible is a powerful testament to this truth. Proverbs chapter 26 verse 27 states, "Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will come back on him who starts it rolling." This principle is active whether you are thinking about it or not. Your peace and your freedom are not just a good choice. They are a spiritual declaration. They are you stepping out of the path of their reaping, and in doing so, you are allowing the law of sowing and reaping to work fully against them. When you stay in their drama and fight their lies, you are actually slowing the process down. But when you disengage and walk in peace, you are allowing the divine justice to move forward unimpeded. This is what terrifies them. They cannot control your peace. They cannot stop your freedom. And because they can't control you, they can't stop the harvest from coming in. They are watching their carefully constructed life fall apart, and they have no one to blame but themselves. So, the next time they try to accuse you of sending them bad karma or try to smear your name, remember this. They are simply trying to shift the blame for their own spiritual downfall. They are terrified because they are finally seeing the consequences of a life lived in spiritual darkness. They are feeling the weight of their own sins, and they have no one to run to. Their lies were never about fooling others. They were always about fooling themselves. And now, the truth is coming in like a flood, and it is a judgment they cannot stand against. This spiritual principle of sowing and reaping is not a revenge fantasy. It is the simple, beautiful, and undeniable truth of a universe that is just. But the greatest torment they face isn't just their falling reputation or their losing battles. It's the very lies they've told that are now turning on them, becoming a weapon of their own self-destruction. Their house is falling, and the harvest of their lies is being reaped. But the greatest torment the narcissist faces isn't something that can be seen on the outside. It's an internal fire, a constant, gnawing pain in their spirit. The lies they used to weaponize against you are now being turned against their own soul. This isn't just psychological torment. It is a spiritual truth, an inescapable consequence of a life lived in constant deceit. The narcissist is not just a liar to others. They are the ultimate liar to themselves. And now, the very reality they manufactured is turning on them, becoming a weapon of their own self-destruction. The Bible reveals this in a powerful way. Isaiah chapter 59 verse 4 states, "No one enters suit justly. No one pleads his case honestly. They rely on empty pleas, they speak lies, they conceive mischief and give birth to iniquity." Think of the narcissist's lies not as empty words, but as spiritual seeds they plant in their own soul. Every lie about you, every twisted story they told to others, every false claim about their own greatness, it was all a spiritual act of conceiving mischief. And now, the iniquity that has been birthed from those lies is haunting them. They are plagued by a spiritual restlessness. Their sleep is broken, their mind is racing, and they are constantly tormented by a feeling of unease and emptiness. This is because their soul, which was made for truth, is now a prison of their own making. They cannot escape the voice of their own conscience, which is screaming the truth at them, a truth they have spent a lifetime trying to ignore. The narcissist's deepest fear is exposure. They live in a secret world of shame, and their lies were meant to be a thick blanket to cover that shame. But now the lies are thinning out. The spiritual judgment is forcing them to face the truth they've been running from. They are seeing their actions for what they were: vile, empty, and cruel. They are being tormented by the memories of the pain they caused you. They are haunted by their own words. They are plagued by a sense of spiritual emptiness because they have rejected the only thing that can fill them, the truth. The Bible tells us that lying is not just a bad habit. It is a spiritual abomination. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 22 says, "Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are His delight." A life of constant deceit is a direct spiritual rejection, and it comes with a terrible price. That price is a tormented spirit, a soul that is constantly at war with itself. The narcissist is losing their mind because they are being forced to face themselves in the mirror, and what they see is a reflection of their own spiritual decay. They cannot escape the very thing they tried to hide. They are their own judge, their own jury, and their own executioner. The spiritual law of cause and effect is not just affecting their external life. It is turning their internal world into a complete and utter hell. They are consumed by their own darkness, and there is nothing they can do to escape it. But as they are consumed by their own darkness, you are walking in a new light. And that light is something they cannot stand. Because your peace and your joy are a spiritual force they cannot extinguish. As they are consumed by the darkness of their own lies, you are walking in a new light. This is not just a poetic idea. It is a spiritual truth. This light you carry is what is causing their internal turmoil, and it is a spiritual force they are completely unable to extinguish. They don't just fear you. They fear the light you represent, a light that exposes their darkness for what it truly is. The Bible reveals this ultimate battle in John chapter 1 verse 5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The narcissist lives in a spiritual darkness of their own making, a world built on lies and manipulation. But your peace, your joy, your very existence outside of their control is a source of light. And that light is shining directly into their reality. Think about what happens when you shine a bright light into a dark, hidden place. Everything that was hidden is suddenly exposed. The narcissist's entire life is a dark spiritual place filled with secrets, shame, and emptiness. When they see you living in freedom and truth, it's like a spiritual floodlight is being shined on their world. They are reminded of their own spiritual emptiness. They look at your peace and feel their own torment. They see your joy and are consumed by their own despair. This is why they are so desperate to get your attention. They are trying to turn your light off, but the spiritual reality is that they can't. Your light is not something they can control or manipulate. It is a divine gift that is now a constant, living testament to their own spiritual bankruptcy. The narcissist cannot stand in your presence because your very being is a spiritual judgment against them. The Bible tells us in 1 John chapter 1 verse 5, "This is the message we have heard from him and proclaim to you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all." By walking away from their darkness, you have stepped into a greater spiritual truth. You are now living in alignment with a light that is pure, incorruptible, and all-powerful. Your peace is not just an emotion, it is a spiritual force. Your joy is not just a feeling, it is a spiritual weapon, and they feel every single blow. This is why they are losing their minds. They are thrashing against a force they can't understand. They are trying to turn off a light they can't even touch. They are so spiritually blind that they don't even realize their own darkness is the source of their torment. They blame you, they smear you, and they attack you because they cannot comprehend the simple truth. Your healing is their torment. Your freedom is their spiritual cage. And your light is what's causing their internal darkness and turmoil. Greatest irony is that the more they try to dim your light, the brighter it shines. Their attempts to smear you only reveal their own spiritual sickness. Their frantic behavior only proves the power of your peace. The more they fight, the more they show the world that they are fighting a losing battle. Your role in this is not to fight them, but to simply stand in your light. Continue to walk in truth. Continue to live in peace. Continue to be free. Because your life is the greatest spiritual testimony against their darkness. But as this light shines, it's not your words that terrify them the most, it's your silence. Because your refusal to engage is a powerful spiritual act, a force that is actively dismantling their control. As you step into your light, it's not your words that terrify the narcissist the most. it's your silence. Your refusal to engage is not a sign of weakness. It is a powerful spiritual act that is actively dismantling their control. A narcissist's entire world is built on noise. They thrive on drama, on your reactions, on the back and forth of arguments and manipulation. They use chaos to distract from their own spiritual emptiness. But when you become silent, when you step away and refuse to participate, you are pulling the very rug out from under their feet. You are taking away their audience, their emotional supply, and their ability to control the narrative. The Bible gives us a profound piece of wisdom that is a powerful spiritual weapon against this kind of person. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 28 states, "Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is thought to be intelligent." This isn't just a simple saying. It is a spiritual law. The narcissist is spiritually foolish, and they cannot comprehend the wisdom of silence. They see your quiet as an invitation to fill the space with more lies and more chaos. But what they don't realize is that your silence is a shield. It is a spiritual barrier they cannot cross. When they launch an attack and you don't respond, their weapon loses its power. They are left holding an empty sword with no one to fight. This is a source of immense frustration and fear for them. Your stillness in the face of their storm is a testament to an inner peace they can't understand. The Bible reveals this in Psalm chapter 46 verse 10. "Be still and know that I am God. Double cures. Your stillness is not passive. It is an active act of spiritual trust. It's a statement that you know the battle is not yours to fight, and that a higher power is working on your behalf. This stillness directly contrasts with their inner turmoil and chaos, and it drives them absolutely insane. They are terrified of your silence because it forces them to be alone with their own thoughts. It leaves them with no one to blame, no one to project their shame onto, and no one to get a reaction from. They are left with only the empty echo of their own lies. This is the spiritual judgment they face. The very things they ran from, their own emptiness, their own shame, their own spiritual poverty, are now their only companions. The narcissist thrives on controlling others, but your silence is something they cannot control. They can't gaslight your peace. They can't lie about your lack of reaction. They can't spin a story about your absence. It leaves them with nothing to work with, and they begin to unravel. Your silence is a spiritual sign that you trust the law of sowing and reaping to work for you. You don't need to lift a finger to get justice. You don't need to say a single word to prove your innocence. Your quiet strength is a direct blow to their spiritual authority. They are seeing that their old tactics no longer work on you, and they are left with a spiritual impotence they can't comprehend. They are desperate, flailing, and in spiritual free fall. But your silence is doing more than just protecting you. It's forcing them to confront something they have been running from their entire life, their true, empty self. Because with no audience left to perform for, the show is finally over. With no audience left to perform for, the show is finally over. The narcissist's entire life has been a spiritual act, a theatrical performance designed to hide the empty shell behind the mask. They built a false identity to be admired, to be loved, to be revered. But your silence, your absence, and your refusal to engage have caused the curtains to close. And now, they are left with the one thing they have been running from their entire lives: themselves. This is the spiritual judgment they could never outrun, a truth revealed in the Bible. Luke chapter 12 verse 2 says, "Nothing is covered that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known." The narcissist spent a lifetime trying to cover up their spiritual poverty, their deep-seated insecurities, and their profound self-hatred. They were masters of disguise, able to manipulate any situation to maintain their false front. But the light you carry and your steadfast refusal to participate in their darkness has brought everything they hid out into the open. The narcissist is not being exposed to the world, at least not yet. They are being exposed to themselves. Their own mind, once a fortress of self-deception, is now a prison of self-condemnation. They are forced to look at the spiritual void they created with every lie they told, every person they hurt, and every act of cruelty they committed. This is their ultimate spiritual downfall. They are a person who has to live with themselves and everything they have done. This is why they are so frantic. They are a wicked person who is now fleeing even though no one is pursuing them. As scripture reveals in Proverbs chapter 28 verse 1, "The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion." The narcissist's fear isn't from an external threat. It's from their own inner torment. Their conscience is their pursuer, their memories are their jailers, and their spiritual emptiness is a constant, gnawing pain. The mask has fallen, and they are left with an ugly truth. They are not the powerful, brilliant, and charming person they pretended to be. They are a hollow shell, filled with nothing but shame and bitterness. This is a spiritual reality they cannot escape. They can't run to a new audience because their spiritual baggage follows them. They can't find a new source of energy because they carry their own spiritual emptiness with them wherever they go. They are trapped in a feedback loop of their own creation. The show is over, the lights are off, and the curtain has fallen. They are alone, and what they are left with is a spiritual torment far worse than any punishment you could ever imagine. They are alone with their sins, and it is a glimpse into a hell of their own making. The show is over, the mask has fallen, and they are left with a spiritual torment far worse than any punishment you could ever imagine. They are alone with their sins, and it is a glimpse into a hell of their own making. This isn't a future punishment. It is a present spiritual reality for a soul that has rejected all truth. The narcissist's torment is a constant, gnawing self-condemnation. Their own conscience, which they have tried to silence for so long, is now screaming at them. The Bible reveals this in Matthew chapter 12 verse 37. "For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." Every lie they spoke, every cruel word, every act of manipulation, it's all now a spiritual weight that is crushing them. Their own words have become their torment. Think of it this way. Their life was a collection of empty promises and twisted stories. They were constantly filling their world with noise to avoid the silence of their own soul. But now that the noise is gone, the emptiness is all they have. And that emptiness is filled with the echo of their own condemnation. They are being tormented by their own past. They are haunted by the memory of their cruelties. This is not a human punishment. It is a spiritual law in motion. They are now being forced to face the truth of their own actions, and it is a fire they cannot put out. The spiritual hell they are experiencing is a direct result of their own rejection of truth. The Bible reveals a powerful image of a person in this state. Job chapter 18 verses 11 to 12 states, "Terrors surround him on every side and chase him at his heels. His strength is famished, and calamity is ready for his stumbling." This is the narcissist's current spiritual state. They are surrounded by a spiritual terror, a feeling of unease and dread that never leaves them. Their strength is completely famished because they have no one to steal energy from. They are running on empty, and calamity is waiting for them, just one small stumble away from a complete collapse. This is not an act of revenge on your part. This is the simple, terrifying consequence of a soul that has chosen to live in spiritual darkness. They have rejected the light, and now they are consumed by the very darkness they embraced. The narcissist's greatest fear is not that you will get revenge. It's that they will be judged by the truth, and their own life is the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Their own mind, corrupted by their choices, is now a spiritual cage they can't escape. This is a moment to recognize the truth of a spiritual law in motion. Your freedom and your peace are a sign of your own spiritual justification. They are a sign that you have chosen to walk in the light and that you are protected from the darkness. The narcissist's torment, their crumbling life, and their frantic behavior are all signs of their self-condemnation. This is not a time to feel pity for them. It is a time to stand in your own peace and to recognize the justice of a spiritual law that you are now a part of. But their torment is only going to get worse, because in their spiritual desperation, they will try to regain control with one final foolish move, and it will only hasten their own spiritual demise. In their spiritual desperation, the narcissist is going to try to regain control. They are going to make a final foolish move, and it will only hasten their own spiritual demise. We are talking about a person who is spiritually famished and surrounded by terrors. They are not thinking clearly. Their mind is completely consumed by the need for revenge and control. In their tormented state, they are going to repeat the same old patterns that got them into this mess in the first place. But this time, it will be different. Because your silence and your spiritual strength have set a law in motion that they cannot outsmart. The Bible reveals this undeniable truth. Psalm chapter 7 verse 15 says, "He makes a pit, digging it out, and falls into the hole that he has made." The narcissist is going to try to dig a new pit for you. They will try to find a new way to smear your name, a new way to cause you pain, or a new person to manipulate. But the spiritual law that is at work is going to turn that pit back on them. They will try to lie, and the lie will expose them. They will try to manipulate, and the manipulation will backfire. Every action they take to regain control will only serve as a testament to their own spiritual folly. This is the ultimate spiritual irony. Their attempts to harm you are now being used as the very tool of their own judgment. This isn't something you have to do anything about. This is a law that is working on its own, a simple, elegant truth of the universe. The narcissist is spiritually blind. They cannot see that their next move is a foolish one. They are so consumed by their need for revenge that they are unable to recognize the trap they are walking into. The Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 27, "But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong." In their own eyes, the narcissist is spiritually strong. They believe their cunning and their lies are a sign of their superiority. But a higher power is using their own foolishness to shame them, to expose them for the weak and empty spiritual beings they are. Their strength is now their weakness. Their cunning is now their folly, and their lies are now their condemnation. They are fighting against a law they cannot comprehend, and they are losing. Your role in all of this is not to intervene. It is not to send them a message or to try to warn others. Your role is simply to stand in your peace. Your silence is the spiritual force that is making their next move a losing one. The more they flail, the more they show the world their true colors. The more they lie, the more they are consumed by their own shame. They are no longer a threat. To you, they are a spectacle of a spiritually defeated soul trying to fight a battle that has already been won. And their desperate, foolish move will lead to one final spiritual consequence, a painful self-reflection where the very things they accused you of, the very shame they projected onto you, is now haunting their own mind. The narcissist's foolish, desperate moves will lead them to a final, painful spiritual consequence, a forced, unavoidable self-reflection. The very things they accuse you of, being crazy, being unstable, being dishonest, are now haunting their own mind. This isn't a coincidence. It is a spiritual law in motion. For a lifetime, they have pointed their finger at others to distract from the sickness in their own soul. The Bible reveals this undeniable truth in Matthew chapter 7 verse 3. Why do you see this speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? The narcissist's entire existence was about focusing on the speck in your eye, to avoid the giant log in their own. They projected their own shame onto you. They made you feel worthless because they felt worthless. They accused you of lying because they were the ultimate liars. But now that you have stepped away, that spiritual boomerang has returned. Their own lies, their own accusations, and their own shame are now haunting their every thought. They are being tormented by their own conscience, a spiritual reality they cannot escape. This is a living hell for them. They are forced to face the very thing they have spent a lifetime running from, their own spiritual bankruptcy. The Bible tells us that this kind of judgment is a natural consequence of a life of deceit. Job chapter 4 verse 8 says, "As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same." The narcissist plowed iniquity and sowed trouble in their life, and now they are reaping it in the form of a painful, unavoidable self-reflection. The pain they caused you is now a fire in their own spirit, and they cannot put it out. They can't run to a new person to escape their own mind. Their own conscience follows them wherever they go. They can't create a new false reality because the spiritual law of truth is now working against them. They are trapped in their own mind, and their own accusations are the jailers. They are experiencing the very emptiness they tried to project onto you. This is why their health is failing, their sleep is gone, and their relationships are crumbling. They are a person who is spiritually and emotionally exhausted from a lifetime of running from the truth. They are now facing the consequence of a life lived in a mask, but you, in all of this, are completely free. The narcissist's projections never defined you. They were always a reflection of their own spiritual state. Your freedom is a sign of your innocence, and their torment is a sign of their guilt. This is not a moment for you to feel pity. It is a moment for you to recognize the justice of a spiritual law that cannot be mocked. Your peace is a sign that the log in their eye was never in yours. Your joy is a sign that their spiritual poverty was never yours. But their internal torment is just the beginning. The lies they've told, the people they've manipulated, the entire life they've constructed is now being exposed for what it truly is, a house built on sand, ready to collapse around them. Their internal torment is just the beginning. The lies they have told, the people they have manipulated, the entire life they have constructed is now being exposed for what it truly is, a house built on sand, ready to collapse around them. This isn't just about their mind unraveling. It's about the spiritual consequences of their choices manifesting in their physical reality. The Bible gives us a terrifying image of this truth. In Matthew chapter 7 verses 26 to 27, it says, "And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it." The narcissist is this foolish person. Every lie was a handful of sand. Every manipulation was a new piece of a flimsy wall. The entire structure of their life was built on a foundation of deceit with no spiritual truth holding it up. But now, the spiritual law of consequences is the rain, the floods, and the winds. They are beating against the house they built, and it is falling. Great is the fall of it. Their relationships are crumbling because they were never built on truth. Their reputation is falling apart because the spiritual law of exposure is at work. Their health is failing because a life of spiritual emptiness and torment is physically unsustainable. This is a judgment they cannot run from. The Bible makes a clear distinction between the path of the righteous and the path of the wicked. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 29 states, "The way of the Lord is a stronghold to the blameless, but destruction to evildoers." The very same spiritual law that is protecting you, the very same truth that is your stronghold, is now destroying them. You are standing on solid ground because you have chosen a different way. Your life is built on a foundation of truth, and your peace is your armor. The narcissist's life, however, is being dismantled by the same spiritual forces that are protecting you. Their way is destruction, and they are now seeing it firsthand. There is nothing they can do to stop this. They can't rebuild the house on sand. They can't find a new way to lie themselves out of this. The spiritual law is in motion, and it is bringing a complete and utter collapse. They are losing everything they thought they had. The people who once admired them are now seeing their true colors. The fame they sought is now their shame. The spiritual void they tried to fill with external validation is now a chasm of emptiness that is swallowing them whole. This is a moment to witness the power of a spiritual law that cannot be mocked. Your peace is your greatest weapon. Your healing is your greatest victory. Because as their house collapses, you are standing on solid ground, and your victory is their ultimate defeat. Because your healing and freedom are not just personal blessings, they are a direct and undeniable spiritual defeat for them. As their house collapses and their life falls apart, you are standing on solid ground. Your healing and freedom are not just personal blessings. They are a direct and undeniable spiritual defeat for the narcissist. The ultimate goal of a narcissist is to dim your light, to control your mind, and to keep you in a state of spiritual bondage. Every moment you spend in peace, every step you take in freedom, is a direct blow to their spiritual authority. They are watching you walk in a power they can't understand, and it is driving them absolutely insane. The Bible gives us a powerful image of this journey and this victory. In Psalm chapter 23 verse 4, it says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." The narcissistic relationship was your valley of the shadow of death. It was a dark, terrifying, and dangerous place. But you walked through it. You did not stay there. You are not a victim. You are a conqueror. And your ability to walk through that darkness without fear is a spiritual victory. It is a sign that a higher power was with you, protecting you and comforting you. The narcissist, on the other hand, is a person who lives in that valley, consumed by the shadow of their own evil. Your freedom is a living testament to the fact that their darkness could not overcome you. This is why they are losing their minds. They are seeing a survivor, and that survivor is you. The very fact that you are living a life of peace is their ultimate punishment. They are tormented by your joy, consumed by your peace, and haunted by your freedom. The Bible is very clear about your status. You are not just a person who survived a difficult relationship. You are more than a conqueror. Romans chapter 8 verse 37 says, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." You didn't just escape the valley. You defeated the evil within it. Your victory is not in fighting them. It is in your ability to live a life so full of peace and joy that their entire world collapses around them. You don't have to lift a finger to get justice. Your peace is the justice. Your freedom is the justice. Your ability to live a life without fear is the greatest act of spiritual warfare you can perform. This is the ultimate spiritual defeat for the narcissist. They are watching you live a life they could only dream of, a life of truth, a life of peace, a life of genuine connection. And it is a living hell for them. This is not a moment for you to gloat. This is a moment for you to recognize the power that is at work in your life. Your victory is a spiritual reality that is now manifesting in the physical world. Your freedom is a sign of your spiritual justification, and their torment is a sign of their spiritual condemnation. But your victory is just one part of the story. The final, most beautiful part is the peace you will find, a peace that transcends all understanding, a peace that will be your final, unshakable shield. Your victory is a beautiful and undeniable spiritual defeat for the narcissist. But your victory is just one part of the story. The final, most beautiful part is the peace you will find, a peace that transcends all understanding, a peace that will be your final, unshakable shield. The ultimate goal of this journey was never about seeing the narcissist suffer. It was always about you. It was about you finding a peace so deep, so profound, that no external force could ever take it away. This is the promise that is now being fulfilled in your life. The Bible tells us in Philippians chapter 4 verse 7, "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. This peace is not a temporary feeling. It is a spiritual reality. It is a shield that is now guarding your heart and your mind from any future attacks. The narcissists peace was an illusion built on temporary control and fleeting external validation. But your peace is a fortress built on a spiritual truth. It is a gift that cannot be stolen, a love that cannot be broken, and a foundation that cannot be moved. The narcissist may try to come back into your life. They may try to find new ways to cause you pain. But when they see your unshakable peace, they will realize they have no power over you. Your calm is their chaos, your rest is their torment, and your peace is a spiritual barrier they will never be able to cross. The Bible reveals that this peace is a direct result of your trust. Isaiah chapter 26 verse 3 says, "You keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." You chose to trust in a higher power, and that trust is now your reward. The narcissist's defeat and your victory was simply a side effect of your journey to find this ultimate peace. You didn't fight for justice, you fought for peace. You didn't seek revenge, you sought freedom. And in doing so, you have found a peace that surpasses all understanding. They may be tormented by their past. They may be consumed by their lies. They may be living in a hell of their own making. But you are standing in a field of peace, a quiet rest that they can only watch from a distance. This is the spiritual outcome of a life lived in truth. It is the end of the battle. It is the beginning of a new, peaceful reality. You have walked through the fire, and you have come out on the other side, not with a wound, but with a shield. This peace is your final, most beautiful victory. The time for fighting is over now. The time for running has come to an end. You can finally rest. The sounds of their chaos, their lies, and their frantic attempts to regain control are now nothing more than a faint echo in the distance. You are in a safe place now, held in a love that knows no end and a peace that has no beginning. Let the noise of the past fade away like a whisper on a gentle breeze, leaving you in the stillness of this moment. You are free. You are whole. And you are protected by a peace that will forever guard your heart and your mind. Sleep peacefully, knowing that you are loved and that your spirit is at rest.